Alright. So let's get that. Alright, welcome back, Weather Kingdom. In this update, we're going to be taking a look at the major snowstorm potential for Friday and another Christmas update. So, we've been talking about this Christmas outlook and discussion on who could see that white Christmas, and I'm going to kind of clarify to what could happen in this update. If you guys are new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. That would be very greatly appreciated. Hello, how are you doing? Hi. So we're going to get it right started here. I'm going to get it pretty much going right now, right in here. So if you guys are new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. We're going to be talking about all about the weather. So we got some things to talk about. All right. First off, we got a bit of a situation going on here. We got a bit of a winter storm event that's taking place. It's not going to be crazy snow, but it's some snow. It's a snow event that's going to be causing some issues. All right. This is not a well-developed snowstorm just yet. How much do you think Western Online can see? We'll have to wait and see on that. Just give me a second. So, we have two systems, by the way. Okay. We have two winter events. And basically, right now, across Western Pennsylvania, it's nothing really going on. Okay. Eastern Pennsylvania, I mean. We got some darker blues starting to show up, and this is going to start sticking. It's not there yet. The dew points are not, the humidity levels are not that great just yet. But as the nighttime hours continue, some of this is probably starting to see some flakes out of this. If you are across Lancaster, Harrisburg, Reading, Pottsville, Sunbury, Bloomsburg, maybe starting to see some flurries or two. Some of you guys might not be seeing nothing. That's okay. That was expected. It's a little bit of a dry air mass in, and it's going to have to break through, even up here. But as we go from 9 o'clock to now, we're in a more of a snowier outlook in this. And you can tell it's building on radar, more and more snow, and I do expect the snow to build. And when it does start to snow, I do think it's going to snow pretty heavy. I think there's going to be a thumping of snow. And I think some areas could see an easy 2-3 inches. Locally, even 4 inches in spots. I think we can even see a little bit of an overdone just depending on how this continues to evolve. So we go into 11 o'clock tonight. Into 12 o'clock, this snow continues to move in. It continues to build. This is by 1 a.m. It wants to die off a little bit. And then the real stuff starts coming over here. But that's a little bit interesting because when we look at the current compared to the future, it's already showing up on the... I think it's a little bit ahead of what it wants to do. So I can see this being a little bit quicker being done, this process. But this is by 4 a.m. and then this is by 5 a.m. You can already tell this is some good snow. This is probably a thumping of snow here in these darker blues here. Some pretty good snowfall. Probably some steady good snowfall accumulations out of this. Okay, this is the future radar. It's not the biggest thing yet, but as you take a look, I want to take a look at a model for you guys, for example. So we're going to take a look here, and we're going to take a look at the winter precipitation. So this is that developing, and then that kind of dies off. It hasn't really died off, but we could continue to see that move and actually re-strengthen some as it gets into the Lehigh Valley, northern Pennsylvania. You got your rain back in the west. You got an interesting setup taking place here. And then, boom, you get that frontal end snow, and then you get that pretty good heavy thumping of snow. I really think there's going to be an area where we do see that thumping, and that's going to be on this line here. I think this is where that rain ice line is going to be. But I think out ahead of it, this is going to be a precursor of what could happen on Friday type system. We're going to have to wait and see. But in this scenario, it does get pretty nasty here. And, the models do want to say a thumping of snow. Probably for eastern Pennsylvania, northern Pennsylvania, in the morning commute. A heavy amount of snow. Probably a few hours of pretty heavy snow. And I wouldn't be surprised if a few extra inches and then some freezing rain and some wintry mix on the back end of it because of your temperatures warming up just a bit. In this scenario, the temperatures are pretty solid throughout tonight. This is your ice line right in here, and it's holding pretty steady about in here. And this is about 30, 31 degrees, so it's not a powdery snow. It's more of a wet snow, heavy wet snow type situation, but that never really gets going into later in the morning and your daytime high, in the Allentown area, maybe 35, 36, but in the Lehigh Valley, you're talking about maybe just around 32. A lot of these areas will struggle to get out of those upper totals. And when you take a look at the total snowfall of the Courage, it's not crazy snowfall, but it's enough here. Okay, if you guys are new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. We're just talking about the weather. But you're talking about in, some areas in New York, potentially out of this latest one, once it near like 5, 6 inches. You're talking about most of Pennsylvania getting a solid 2 to 3 inches, like I said. I think even my area, a solid 2.5 inches. I think that could even be a little bit bumped up even more, just depending. This was 0, 0 a little bit less, but look at that. And then that snow just continues. I am interested on what could happen also with the freezing rain. We could have a little bit of a trace to even 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. So that could make things a little dicey and icy in your morning commute. So when are we talking? We're going to keep taking a look at this, but I want to look at some other look at models. And we're going to look at the time frame of when you can expect this to be exactly, because I want to give you guys very fine details on this upcoming event for tonight. And this is going to probably help to coat that snow for the Christmas time, okay? We're going to look at the west, too, with that potential snow in the west. I know there's been a lot of talk about the west, so we'll be talking about that later on. But look, this is one of the other models, likes the same thing. We get into that moderate, and that where that line is where we see the heaviest conversion of snow near that freezing rain line. I think that's where some of those heavier snowfall totals are going to take place. And then we can see that trying to change into a wintry mix and then freezing rain towards the end. So looking pretty nasty tomorrow, in my opinion. This is another model, a trace to maybe 1/2 of 1/10 of an inch of ice. It doesn't take a lot to do that, but this is one of the models here. And this is just a 0, a solid 3, 4 inches in the northern PA. This doesn't go out fully, but if we did, guarantee you it would be a little bit more of a situation right there. Yeah. So that's some pretty nasty. It's not a crazy snowstorm, but it's a snowstorm coverage, okay? And then when we take a look at the NAM model, I'm not a big fan of this, but look. You see that same situation, that thumping of snow, and then even a bit of that freezing rain on this model. It likes to bring that freezing rain a bit. And yeah, the NAM model likes a bit more freezing rain in this scenario, up to maybe almost 2/10 of an inch of freezing rain. That will be really nasty because now you got that snow accumulation. It's a little bit less on the snow in the further south of PA, but look at that up here. So it's a tough forecast. Nothing's rock solid yet, but it probably will be a snow event and then changing into a freezing rain event. Freezing drizzle probably, I would say. Or some light rain that you know, light drizzles. You know what I mean? But if you guys are new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. We're trying to get more people engaged with the weather. We already got 2 likes. Let's get 10 likes, you guys. All right. All right, so I just started a poll. How much snow am I getting? I just did. So feel free to look at that. Thank you, everybody. We're going to get it started just in here. I wonder how that's going to go. All right. I just started a poll for everybody, so please go check that out. So that's very interesting with the model data. Something to keep an eye on. All right. We're going to take a look at this tropical Tibet stuff. So we got the new GFS coming out for our next system. That's going to be, ooh. That's a bit interesting too on Christmas Day. That's been trending a little bit more of a freezing rain. We're going to have to keep an eye on this, you guys. Some interesting stuff going to be taking place. But look, we got some of these other mesoscale models that I like to take a look at in the short range. But it does want to show that snow, that frontal end. Do not worry about that. But look, a pretty good dose of snow. And then this continues to move on. But then you're talking about this is, you know, Christmas Day. Maybe a little bit of snow flurries and snow showers. We're just going to have to keep an eye. I mean, this model likes to go a little bit, you know, even more aggressive and a little bit more south. But it does like a general 2 to 4 inches. Locally higher. Okay? This model also is a little bit further north, but it likes a general 2 to 3 inches of snow. All right. So in that snow, this is as of 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So your snow in the eastern Pennsylvania will probably start more like midnight, after midnight. And then your heavier snowfalls are probably between your morning compute from like 6 in the morning to about probably 11 in the morning. Maybe even, I would say probably 11 in the morning is where it's going to be the worst weather. And then we have to keep a watch if any leftover precip does continue throughout the afternoon. Could it be some freezing rain and make the roads a little slick? I think that's possible. Okay, something to really keep an eye on. All right. There's another story that I want to talk about is the Western U.S. And this has been a big and hot topic. This is our next big storm that's going to be rolling into the California area. A very powerful one. A good atmosphere river event that's going to be going right into California, you guys. Look at this. A 991 millibar low pressure with another one right here. And look at this. You're getting all of this Pineapple Express of precip going into your deserts and your valleys here. And this is looking pretty warm, you guys, even for the mountains. This probably will change over to snow eventually, but gusty winds, heavy rain, even a little bit of some thunderstorms wouldn't be in the surprise. This would be about Christmas Eve, you guys. And even for the mountains, this is not looking crazy here. And this is not just one, but we get quite a bit of systems here. This is a lot of rain and a lot of snow. Look at this. You're only talking about some mountain snows in the mountaintops. Mostly this is just very heavy rain. The temperatures are just too warm. I mean, look at this. This is just outrageously warm. You talk about the mountains there, but it's not going to be that best. Maybe in the future it gets a little bit colder, but I don't know. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. But look, boom. You get that first dose, and then you're talking about a secondary low pressure, a little bit stronger. You're talking about 988 millibars. And this one could bring a lot of heavy rain and snow, and it's just a bad commute for your Christmas travels. Total rain accumulations, you're talking about up to maybe 6 to 12 inches. And you don't even want to know some of the snowfall. Maybe even on the GFS here. With this model, likes a lot of the heavier rainfall. I know David Schlotthauer has been really on this, but look at that. Some mountain snow, and then that secondary low pressure really just cranks in. And your total snowfall across these mountains here, you're talking about, if you're in the mountains right away, some pretty good snow. You're talking about over 8 feet of snow. You're talking about some areas watching maybe 100 inches of snow. So good snow for the mountains that's been seeing it. But in the rainfall, you're looking at some very heavy rain across the west too. Okay? If you guys are new to the channel, please like, please subscribe. We're kind of taking a look at everything right now. We're also going to be, this is for your Christmas time, okay? This is another very important model here of the NAM. Actually, I could probably take a look at that. Yeah, look at that. This is, take it with a grain of salt, but it's not going to be that strong of low pressure. But look at that. Boom. You're talking about some very heavy rain and snows, and then that secondary snow. Ooh. Probably some nasty thunderstorms, you guys, in this area. Something to really watch for. I would be concerned about. We're going to go back to that. We're now going to go back into the Northeast because we got a model coming out. Okay, interesting. We got a latest GFS model coming out. So I'm going to actually talk about it as it's coming out here. Alright, let's go back in this. So this is our system for tomorrow, you guys. This is system number 1. This is going to be that precursor event for your day before pretty much Christmas. Christmas Eve, actually. This is going to be a minor event. 2 to 4 inches, maybe locally 5. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. But what happens afterwards? So the models, I don't see too much out of this. GFS probably overdoing this one for December 25. Christmas Day. They want to see some precip, maybe some freezing rain. I could see that being cloudy, some freezing rain, drizzle, in that scenario. But that's not the big thing. We're talking about this. Look at what's happening here, you guys. I need you to take a look at this. So we got a low pressure moving in, right? Right? You got a piece of energy up here that's diving south with this energy, right? But what do you have out in front of it? So, yes, the west is going to be very warm. We're talking about some very warm. But look at what's going on in the northeast. I want you guys to watch this, all right? Actually, I'm going to draw this back here. I want you guys to take a look at what's going on here. This guy, a 1035 low, high pressure. That's a strong high pressure. And what this is doing here is bringing Arctic air, and it's creating an air mass, a very, very cold and dense air mass across the Northeast. Okay? Very, very cold. For you're waking up on Christmas morning, Christmas night. You're going to be able to tell. Very cold air mass. And this is likely going to happen. This is getting in the time frame. But look at what happens here, you guys. This high pressure is in dominant control here. You're talking about a high pressure bringing in, very, very warm air. I mean, very cold air. This is another high pressure. This is... Wait. So this is actually... Okay. This is bringing very cold air. Alright, some Arctic air. I meant it like this. Sorry, you guys. Very cold Arctic air. Cold air damming. You got precip right here. This is going to be an ice event, you guys. I'm telling you. Friday is going to be a very bad day if this scenario happens. Look at what happens. We continue to keep that strong high pressure here. A 1030. Just plummeting cold air supply. Alright. Very cold air. And what we see is we got a very strong low pressure. 1,003. We got an Alberta clipper right here too. So this is we got a little bit of an Alberta clipper. And then we got a low pressure from the Rockies moving in from the west. So what does that create? It creates an unbelievable winter storm. And it's not with the snowfall, you guys. I'm not talking about like 3 feet. I'm talking about the ice. This will be a catastrophic ice event. Some of the models are going big here. Look at this stuff. This is interesting with the latest GFS. I mean, it's holding in, you guys, that interesting precipitation event. It wants the snow to start the afternoon now. Probably the afternoon of your Friday. Okay? This is about as you get into 7 p.m. You got a cold air damming situation going on. You got a... You see how these are spiking? Look, you got very cold air in the atmosphere, in the lower atmosphere, slamming into this. But at the same time, you got a low pressure kind of moving like this. So, yes, you got that warmer air coming in here in the mid-levels and upper levels. You got colder in the lower levels. And what this does is a very heavy period of thumping snow on the front end. And then you're talking about a ice storm in these regions. And then a wintry mix in this purple. A winter mess. Very heavy winter precip in this scenario. Very bad weather. Very bad. And then we can kind of see it, never really gets any more north with the snow line because that transfer into a coastal area. But you're talking about some areas talking about some freezing rain, some areas staying snow, and some just dealing with the wintry mix. A very nasty winter storm event if this scenario takes place. All right. And what I mean with the temperatures, I mean, you're talking about, yeah, waking up, you're talking about your daytime high, not even getting out of the 20s. Not even getting out of the 20s in this scenario. You're talking about your warmest, not even for Philadelphia, getting out at 32 degrees. So you got an ice storm, but then you got a winter storm. GFS like to show the snowier solution. Okay? Take it with a grain of salt. But in this scenario, this is that first system, all right? This is this first system, solid 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inches. I think that's very likely in this scenario. All right. So we got 50-50, 2 poles now. 1 inch, nothing. Okay. Now I want to take a look at the 24-hour snowfall. Alright. Watch the next system comes in. Boom. What does this do with the GFS? The GFS says, and this is the courage. This is that, you know, precip liquid. Alright. It wants to drop New York City about a half a foot. Northern around here about 10 inches. 8 to 10 inches. The Allentown area about 8 inches. Philadelphia about only an inch. Because of that wintering precip. But that frontal end snow will see the most. But look at the freezing rain. You're talking about a major freezing rainstorm across western Pennsylvania. You're talking about over a half an inch. Yeah, 79. This could be a little bit overdone. But a major ice storm also in the mix of here. And it's not including the sleet, you guys. And if it was 10-1 ratios in this scenario, we'll be talking about like 12 inches. But it's not that scenario. Alright. Very nasty situation. This will stay all snow in New York. Alright. Last run, if we take a look at the last run, and then it wants to end like that on Wednesday morning, but we'll have to see. This will be a mess to wake up for. Alright. So what about this? Alright. You guys might be asking, what is this, Justin? So this is how much precip that could be in this. Okay. And I'm going to do something quickly. We're just going to see about this. So I want to show you guys what we could be talking about with some of this. So this is the frontal end snow event. This kind of tells us if it's going to be some very heavy rates of snowfall, heavy precipitation. It kind of tells us all about that. And I'm going to show you guys both storms. So this is that first storm. Boom. You're talking about 7 a.m. When that snow is falling, it's probably going to be falling pretty damn good. You're talking about some good frontal end snow. How do we know it's frontal end? Because look, you got a strip of solid snow right in here. This would mean some pretty good snowfall rates. Some good accumulation. Bad thing is, it's not 10-1 ratios. But that's only that one system. Okay? So GFS picks up on good frontal genesis in this system tonight. Next system, there it is, boom, 2. Like I said, this is 7 o'clock. Look at some of this very heavy precipitation, heavy thumping of snow. This is what I'm talking about when we're talking about heavy thumping of snow. You want to see these colors. That's why you get those totals. You're probably talking about 2 inches an hour in this scenario. And then that continues to move out. Okay? This is one model. It's not all the models yet. I'm actually interested on the Canadian too. But we're getting that. This is this event tonight. Looking like the models are a little bit more aggressive. We already know that. Next system, this is about the 25th. We're not even there yet with the next system. Alright. So, it is interesting. It's an interesting event. Where I have to keep a watch on this. It's an interesting pattern going into the Christmas week. So, buckle up, you guys. An interesting northeast pattern that's going to really shape up. But I'm very interested about this. It's been holding. Question is, how much holding is it going to do? That's something I don't know just yet. Alright? The icon. Alright. Let's take a look at the icon, for example. I wonder, does this have sleep? Okay. So this is actually, I want to show you guys the European, for example. Alright. We're going to look at some of the rates here in the Euro. But this is the European model. Alright. Latest model. Alright. We're going to look at some of these here, too. Give me 1 second. And boom. This is our tonight's into tomorrow morning system. Hey, we already know about that. The pattern really sets up. Boom, we get that blocking high. Look at that. Very interesting. Same situation. Low over here. Frontal end storm. This would be your ice line. This would be your thumping snow line. Okay. You got a high pressure here. Keeping it blocked and cold. Locked and cold, you guys. We've seen this in the past with these type of systems. And we usually see some good snowfall out of this. Okay. We usually see some good winter precip. And the European model says, okay, you guys. We're kind of agreeing with the GFS. But it wants more of a freezing rain event out of this than a wintry mix. So we're still going to have to fix that. We get that thumping of snow in New York City, New York, northern Pennsylvania. But look at this, you guys. Look at all this just pink. Yeah, we got some purples right here, right in here, where that wintry mix could be. But look at all this pink. You guessed it. It's freezing rain. It's basically like black ice. It's like black ice raining from the sky. Very bad. This would be your nighttime commute. And this continues to go into your morning time and even into 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. This one it's starting to die off. But this is when it's really at its bad. Even around 10 o'clock, it's still some showers. And then even another, you know, the models like to show maybe even another event. Then pretty much the day after. Another frontal end, freezing rain event, snow event type deal. So, a lot of winter precip in the next 3 to 4 days. But, in this scenario, you guys, look at what it does. Yeah. It's not pretty. You're talking about over a half an inch of ice across the PA area. This is only one of the models. This is actually, wait. Okay, so we're good there. Alright, so it does want to show some good freezing rain. Okay, this is the 12Z. A little bit more different. The models are a little bit different on each one. But this is the European on 12Z. Boom. A little bit more dynamic. Still showing that heavy freezing rain. This wants to go a little bit quicker. Okay, it wants 10 o'clock, it wants that freezing rain in. And it wants to keep you freezing rain throughout the morning. This would be a very nice. I don't know why Weather.Nerds is doing it like that. It's not right. But, in this scenario, you guys, let me just lay it out there for you. European total snowfall on the 18Z. Actually, would put a, I don't want to use this just yet. Alright, 1 second. Never mind, I have to. Alright, that's my only option, never mind. It wants to show most areas getting a thumping of snow. Some of these northern regions up to a foot. You have to remember some of that is taking into place of this storm. I wish I could do that, but like down here, this is pretty realistic totals. 5 inches, 6 inches. Pretty nasty event. But you're going to be talking about some freezing rain too. Alright. Very nasty event. If this place took. But this is the European model. So European likes the same time frame. GFS also very similar. Just a little bit different on the precipitation-wise. The Canadian. This is now officially out. I want to see the latest Canadian. Oh. Okay. So it's coming in more like the GFS, you guys. Same type of deal, a little bit colder, and boom, that thumping of snow across your nighttime. 7 o'clock, boom, you get that thumping, and then that wintry mix, and then that freezing rain. It's going to be interesting, you guys, how this plays out. Because the Canadian likes that thumping of snow, maybe 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inches. Hello, Mark. Nice to see you. And then wants that wintry mix around 7 a.m. But it also got that freezing rain. Alright? So the models are a little bit different. Each one a little bit different. Canadian's a little bit more of aggressive on that transfer of the low. But it does want to give you a good areas amount of snow here. You're talking about a solid 3 to 5 inches of snow across northern Pennsylvania. Probably some good ice too. Just taking it with a grain of salt, because things are still going to change. But we have a snowstorm on all the models. That's a major thing here. The Icon is coming in as that thumping of snow too, a little bit earlier, and also a major ice event. Okay? And then that back end snow, and then it really wants to do that. So things could trend. Hopefully sometime January, Chicago will see big snow. We'll have to see, and then we'll have to see with this next system. I don't know yet. But we're kind of taking a look at all of the major models right now, that we could kind of see what's going on. Alright, how is everybody doing right now? How is everyone? 2 polls. So I want to take a look at some of the ensembles, because I know that's and the AI models. I know that's been a big thing here in the weather community. Yeah, I don't got precip. That stinks still. Alright. Let's do this APHIS style, alright? I don't... Not good enough yet. So I want to take a look at the ensembles in our next system. The ensemble snow forecast. So this is the mean. Yeah, you definitely get a stronger mean here on your models here. And then as you go out, you get pretty crazy with your snowfall potentials as you get further out. I mean, I don't know about this all, but, you know, some of these models like to show, you know, unbelievable nor'easters that probably won't happen. You know, you like Ensemble 10, for example, ain't ever going to happen. You ain't going to get that. You tell me it's going to... Yeah, that's not going to happen that type of way. Pattern looks interesting, though. That's one thing for sure. I wish I can take a look at each individual thing here for you guys. Ugh. That's nasty, cold air. Alright, something we're gonna have to watch out. Gonna be warm Christmas here in Chicago town. Nice. I don't know if you want it. I don't think you do. And I understand why. Alright, so let's take a look at weather-wise. Let's take a look at some of this. I don't know why they didn't just fix these. Yeah, look at that. Some interesting precip. Some of this might start to be falling at this point. I think some of this is probably starting to fall. Yeah, especially around there. Yeah, some pretty good snowfall starting to fall around there. You got winter weather advisories for 1 to 4 inches. And then that lake glaze of ice. WPC base probabilities. I want to take a look at your probabilities for surface. That's next system. Boom. Yeah, look at that Friday. Whew. They have snow likely. And then that mix likely potential too there. Very interesting. And then boom. So they actually up these chances just a bit. Believe it or not, they do have a spot of 50 to 70% across these regions here. And then the other is 30 to 50. So it's not a terrible percentage-wise according to the National Weather Service. They do believe that. And then boom. Not terrible there. That's a very nasty run here. I mean, look at that. You talking about that snowfall and then boom. Thank you for the stream. Yes, no problem. I'm glad I can do a stream for you guys. I know. See, I'm not liking this either, in this scenario either, because look, now you're getting even more and more into a secondary winter storm. I mean, you're talking about your next system right here for Friday, but look, your next storm is now looking even more and more of a frontal end snow, and then that moves out and does something like this. All right. That's something we're going to have to watch, you guys, because that could be more freezing rain. Really not looking good to close out the month of December. With weather-wise, no. I don't like it. Quickly before I do end the stream here, I do want to talk a little bit about the CFS. I want to look at the longer range model. Kind of see where we're at. And stands at, how does the month of January looks, okay? I mean, look, this is these two winter storms. Boom, you're talking about that one, and then you're talking about this, whatever you want to call it. All right, then your pattern gets interesting. It gets active. CFS likes it warm. And then towards the end, it gets cold. And then it really gets cold in February, but then it warms up again. So it's a little bit, it's a very active pattern with your CFS. It's a little bit hard to tell right now on what's going to happen. Okay. You guys, we're going to hold off for a second. Wait. I found something on Pivotal. It's the European APHIS. Let's look at some of this. Okay, wait. Now. Look at the APHIS here on this snow event tonight. Hey, European likes it all the way down here, a solid, 1 to 2, 3, 4 inches. But I want you guys to take a look at 24 hours out. Watch that moves out and look at our next system. Boom! Look at the APHIS, you guys. This is the AI model. It's really starting to show a winter storm signal. Believe it or not, even for New York. Up to 5 inches. Remember, this is an AI model, but this wants to, say 3 to 5 inches. Alright? Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, look at that. It even grows a little bit more before it moves out. That's a good signal, and then boom! Another signal right there, another signal there. And then it goes night-night for a little bit. Alright. We're going to have to see. The GFS does not have the snowfall forecast, so we cannot do that. So that stinks quite a bit. Wow, I am tired. That next system also after that is pretty interesting. Because then it really gets cold again, like crazy cold. That's an interesting pattern that sets up. Canadian likes to go, well, I think Canadian's wrong about this one.